Montreal has a chance to be the first Canadian Stanley Cup championship team since 1993.
Okay.
Since that time, which Canadian franchise has been the most successful and which has been the least successful?
Oh, without a doubt, Vancouver's been the most successful, and that pains me to say as a Flames fan, but they make the Cup Finals in 94. They're routinely making it past the first round since that time. They make the Cup Finals in 2010 or 2011. They win a President's Trophy. They have many players that play on the team that'll be in the Hall of Fame, like the Sedins, Luongo. They won, I think, a Hart Trophy and Art Ross. It's without a doubt, it's got to be Vancouver.
Yeah, I agree. It's Vancouver, and you're right, Sanjay. It's not even close for all the reasons you already listed. The regular season success, you already mentioned the President's Trophy. They're the only Canadian franchise to have won a President's Trophy in that time span. Plus, first in their division 7 times since then.
Oh, wow.
Playoff success, best winning percentage in the playoffs among all the teams, and you already mentioned the 2 Cup final appearances, which is the most by any Canadian franchise. It's the Canucks.
Yeah, and I would agree. I want to say Edmonton, but it's for the wrong reasons. It's for, first round draft picks, first overall.
You guys got that on lockdown,
man. I remember when we got drawn for the McDavid draft, I was holding Atticus. I think he was a little guy at that point, and I was like, yeah, and he started crying. But that was one of the biggest victories in the past 20 years in Oilers history. But yeah, Vancouver for sure. But you also can't discount the success that the Ottawa Senators had early on in that time frame as well. With the Alfredson era, Jason Spezza, they were a force to be reckoned with when Carlson was there, and then the whole dumpster fire happened, and that really swept them under the rug. But it goes without saying they were really successful, and they were one game away from going to the Stanley Cup final. Right.
Well, and they went to the Cup final in 2007 as well. And they've been to the conference final 3 times, including that 2007 run. So, I would say they're probably number 2.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
But it's Vancouver, and then down there's Ottawa, and I think maybe Montreal's up in there too, and then down, and then we get to the rest of us.
And this leads perfectly into the second part of that question, which is, who has been the least successful NHL franchise?
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna include Winnipeg because they've only been there for half the time, and I mean they did make a Western Conference final, so hats off to them. I'm gonna go with Edmonton, and I know you guys are gonna be like, oh, you of course you choose Edmonton, but my reason is that after their Cup run in 2007. Or 06. 06, they didn't make the playoffs or win another playoff round until recently.
12 years.
Yeah, and it took winning multiple first overall draft picks, getting generational talent. Generational talent on there. But I don't think it'll last very long of them being at the bottom. But I have Edmonton for right now.
I'm going to agree twice on this one with Sanjay. Number 1, I'm going to skip Winnipeg because it's just not really fair to include them. It took them a while to get that program up and running when they came back, and leading up to the time they were leaving, obviously they were having financial difficulties and whatever. So they were a very competitive team. So I'm just going to skip them entirely. And then I am going to agree it is the Edmonton Oilers. When it comes to the playoffs, the winning percentage is actually not too terrible. It's better than Winnipeg and Calgary's at least. And they did have that one magical run in 2006. But that's the only time that they made it to the Final Four in the playoffs. So again, in terms of playoffs, not great, but not the worst of the bunch. But it's the regular season that they really set themselves apart from the rest of the Canadian franchises. They have the worst regular season win percentage of all Canadian teams over that time, including Winnipeg. And they're the only team to finish last in the league twice since that time. They've also finished last in their conference, a separate 2 times, and last in their division another 2. So they're always at the bottom quite a bit. So that's why they got so many draft picks there, Adam.
How much research did you do for this question? Because you're pulling up stats that I'm like,
I looked into it because I thought it was pretty fun. So yeah, I was looking into all the records since '93.
And I'm just gonna go, and I do agree. So for all you haters that want to comment and be like, "You're a moron, Adam," go ahead, post it. But here's the team that I think is the least successful in that time, and it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, have you ever?
I knew you would pick them.
Have you ever seen a kid take daddy's credit card and be like, "Oh man, look at this, dad's credit card. I'm gonna go spend it all, and he's not gonna find out." While they get to the store, which is the show, the playoffs, right? They do all this spending like some moronic kid that doesn't think it shows up on the goddamn bill, and all of a sudden, dad comes in with the paddle, a cattle prod, you name it. And he's like, "You're not going anywhere." And he's at the door. He's at the precipice. He is about to win a round. And then his dad, grounds him, takes away the PlayStation, kicks his ass a little maybe, right? And he's eliminated over and over and over.
What was the point of that story? I thought you were going to
have some fun with it. I was like, I just want to go on
so much money, and then when it's got like this is where I thought your story was going. Where like before the cap, they spent tons and tons of money, and then is that what you were saying? Then they took it away, and then
no, I just thought I was
because they couldn't spend the money.
I was just comparing it to you're killing the joke, Ryan.
I'm just trying to get the analogy.
Yeah, it's like the
credit card is what for the Maple Leafs?
The success.
Oh, it's not the budget or the cap or whatever.
I thought it was their payroll because they were like always at the top of the payroll.
Yeah. And then the ultimately, the failure of not being able to cover that up. Daddy finding out.
So daddy took the success away.
Yeah.
And who's daddy? God?
I don't know. Let's see. who was the
Gary Bettman?
Let's see. Who was
the Leafs are the only Canadian team since 1993, barring the Jets, since 1993 not to make the Cup final.
Yeah. Well, and who was their GM?
John Ferguson Jr.
No. Predating. Burke? No.
Predating John Ferguson Jr.
No, it was
Quinn, or after him.
Was it Gillis? No.
Which time frame?
Dr. Google.
He got fired, and then I think they brought in Burke.
Oh, I thought Burke was right after John Ferguson Jr.
Was after...
Oh no, they brought in brought in who's that interim GM? Clifford. Fletcher.
No.
Was
it Cliff Fletcher?
Cliff Fletcher. There we go. Yeah. They brought him in for like one off season. He made like that terrible Jeff Finger trade.
But who was that? Who was before him?
John Ferguson Jr.
Who was before John Ferguson Jr.?
It would have been Pat Quinn. Yeah.
And then Ken Dryden. And then before him, Bill Waters was intern, but Cliff Fletcher was from 91 to 97.
Okay, who was after
Fletcher?
Fletcher?
The one who pulled off that Gilmore trade.
Who was after Fletcher?
After Fletcher was Ken Dryden.
Then?
Pat Quinn.
Then? And this is
like John Ferguson Jr. And then it was Brian Burke.
Yeah.
Okay.
What Sanjay said is fair, that the
though?
Leafs are the only team who have not made the Cup final other than Winnipeg. That's fair. And I mean, they've had some very embarrassing losses along the way in storylines as well. I would say the only reason I would put them ahead of Edmonton is the fact that team in the 90s, early 2000s was really good. And that's really the difference for me, in that they made 3 semifinal appearances since 93. All in the 90s, 2000s. So they did have playoff success before the salary cap. That team was was pretty good in the playoffs back then. And then obviously this latest iteration, not the greatest in the playoffs, but regular season success. has extended for 5 years now. So to me, it boosts them a little higher rather than, that one magical Edmonton run. They had a little more consistency, but it's really nothing to brag about. So to be honest, none of us can really brag about our teams, right? Like it's arguing about like the shittiest franchises since 93. Like, okay, which one's the cleanest of the shit? And it's obviously not Barron's Pipes.
I was gonna say you two keep arguing and just ignore Calgary and the fact that since 93 they've only made it out of the first round twice. So you guys keep fighting. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Edmonton and Toronto, they suck. Just ignore Calgary. Just ignore it.
You're right there with us, Sanjay. Okay? You're right in the shit with us.
Yeah. The puck was in 04, damn it.